Hey, welcome to this video called How to Win Final Tables, or Final Table Tips, or How to GG everybody else at the final table, get a big pile of cash and roll around in it with a trophy. Be careful with the trophy, pointy edges. I'm Nick from Transform My Poker, and I worked out before filming this video that in my time in poker I've commentated, so I've watched intently, because I've had to commentate, on over 300 major final tables, live and online. Tons of different events, millions of dollars of prize money, some of the best players in the world, so lucky me. Now, during that time, I'd have to be an even bigger moron than I look to not have picked up some similarities, some commonalities, and really what you need to be doing if you're going to win a final table. Now, some of this, of course, is going to be very situational, right? There's going to be dynamics at the table, individuals at the table, you're going to have a certain image. However, there are some concrete things that you need to be focused on and some things that you can do away from the table to get better at the things you'll need to do at the table that I think are really important. And I've seen a lot of people, especially people that have satellited into events or are playing, one of their first big events, really blow it at final tables with stuff that they would never have done if they'd focused on the things that I'm going to go through with you. So this is really worthwhile, and I really hope that you get the chance to play for a big prize. But whether you do or not, you're going to reach final tables, and the thing that separates tournament players is the number of opportunities they actually convert. So the number of times they go deep in a tournament, how many times do they actually finish in the top 2 or 3 positions? Because that's where all of the money is in poker tournaments. So let's get into it. First of all, before the final table, you want to refocus. You want to refocus. Yes, it's exciting. Yes, there's going to be some adrenaline. You might even feel the opposite and be tired because tournaments are a long time, but you need to refocus because here's where you need to be playing your best poker of the day or of the multiple days or whatever it is. Now, if you're lucky, you'll get a break before the final table. That happens most of the time live. There's a lot of faffing, so live it's easier. Online it doesn't always happen. But try and give yourself a break, even if it's only 30 seconds online, to do some deep breathing, some switching off, and then to really refocus. It's so important that you're in the right condition to play your best. A very quick tip, I would go round the table and internally do a table report, figure out what you know about each of the final tablists. You'll have played with some of them at the previous table, that's inevitable. Assess everybody's stack and try and have a quick think about where your opportunities might be. That's just a quick table report technique to get your head back in the game, because that's where you need it, because we're going to play for lots of money. Now, next you need to know the payouts and you need to have some ICM awareness. So no ICM. It's probably not great to be fixated on the payouts. I've seen people at final tables with the payouts in their hand in live card rooms and they keep looking at them. If I get up one more step, I'll have 8,000. One more step, I'll have 9,000. That's not going to be good for your poker and your decision making. You're going to be too handicapped by what you could lose or what you could make, as opposed to just making good decisions based on the hand that you're playing. However, you need to have some awareness. You need to know when there are significantly big money jumps, because that is going to affect not only your decisions but other people's decisions, because you're going to see opportunities where people are with the payouts really just trying to survive. Well, that's an opportunity for you, right? You can push that person around because they're not going to want to put their chips at stake. You also need an awareness of ICM, independent chip model. You can get this by Googling after I've done this video. Spend some time with independent chip modeling software. You do not need to be an expert, right? You do not need to be a maths whiz to make good decisions at the final table, but you do need to have an understanding of the dynamics. You need to understand how much of a disaster it is if you bust with a medium-sized stack when there are 3 or 4 really short stacks at a final table. That's the stuff that you need to know. I'm not proposing we go through it all here, but you need to have that awareness, because otherwise you can make some catastrophic mistakes. If you're second in chips and you get involved in a big pot with the chip leader and it's a spot where you need him to fold or something like that, you're probably making a pretty big mistake, because you're jeopardizing a lot of equity, a big share of the money, and potentially going out in 8th with a small share of the money. So that's stuff that you need to be aware of, because you will need to make adjustments to your play. So understanding that is important. Third of all is stack awareness. Stack awareness. The deeper we go in a tournament, the more the tournament becomes about stack size and the less it becomes about cards. At the final table, that's especially true because of the money jumps, because they're so significant, because of the ICM implications. What you can do in a particular hand is going to be governed by not only your stack, your opponents that are in the pot stack, but also the stacks around the table. This is a unique situation. So it is not acceptable for you not to know all of the stacks all of the time. There's only 9 of them, very occasionally 10 of them on a final table. You need to know what they are. So you need to be aware of what the stacks are to your right, to your left, all the way around the table, because they're going to have a big impact on your decision making. So you can practice this earlier in the tournament. It's not a bad thing to know anyway. What kind of fills me with despair a little bit is when you see, when I'm commentating on a final table and I see somebody get to the turn or the river and they make a bet and their opponent goes all in and they immediately need a count. Now, it's fine to get a count, right? Because it's a big decision. I understand that. But you can tell sometimes that people really didn't know how much of a decision their opponent could put them to. They really didn't have an awareness of their opponent's stack size, and that is unforgivable. And you don't need to be a poker expert to do that. You just need to have an awareness and focus on your opponents and what you can do, because the stacks are going to dictate the plays you can make and the dynamics around the table. So have that stack awareness, unforgivable not to. All right, remember their people is number 4. Remember people. So at a final table, it's very tempting to think about yourself and that speedboat that you're going to buy when you take it down, right? That's very tempting. It's very tempting to think, oh, what a journey I've had. I remember that pot 2 days ago. Oh, I've got aces. I'm going to play that now. Very easy to get in your own head. That's always a mistake when you're playing poker, because, you know, it's less about your own cards, more about what you can do against your opponents and what they have. But especially it's a mistake at a final table. The other mistake you can make is you can get too involved in the stuff I'm talking about, ICM, payouts, stack sizes, and that kind of thing. It's very easy to forget you're playing against people. This is especially true online, of course, because we're just looking at stack sizes on a screen. Even though stacks are super important at final tables, there are opportunities created by the people involved. In fact, these can be more acute than at other stages of the tournament, because everybody is under pressure, right? Everybody's playing for big money now, not just you. Everybody wants to win first and get the speedboat. I don't know why you're getting a speedboat, but you are. Win first and get a speedboat, not just you. So people are under pressure and people react differently. Some people will go into bully mode if they've got a big stack, or that's just the way they are, or they think it's the way to win. So look out for that. They'll play too loose. A lot of people will play too tight, and you'll get survivalists who just want to move up the money ladder. You need to be aware of these dynamics. You need to be aware of who's trying to steal off who. Other players will notice the survivalers. Survivalers? The survivor mentality players. And they'll try and steal from them. So maybe you can re-steal. You must be aware of the human dynamics at a final table and the opportunities this creates. One of my favourite final tables of all time, which I didn't commentate on because I was too young, was when TJ Cloutier finished second to Chris Ferguson. I'm not good on years, you can figure it out. But TJ Cloutier came to that final table, I think of 6 or 7 players, as one of the shortest stacks. Chris Ferguson had a massive stack, and what TJ Cloutier realised was that Ferguson was just going to try and take everybody out. Smart thing to do. He had a huge chip advantage. So Cloutier did nothing. Nothing. He barely played a hand. He just sat there and watched everybody get busted out, most of them by Ferguson, and went from 9th to 2nd. So, or whatever it was, 7th to 2nd, whatever. And guaranteed himself second place money. So that's a great example of someone being aware of a dynamic at a final table. And it is valuable to understand that dynamics happen at final tables, and you may be able to take advantage of them, either by being more loose or aggressive, or by being more tight. So be aware of it, understand that you are playing people, and think about other people's situations, not just your own at the final table. Here comes the most important one, number 5 with the bullet. And I'm having that hilarious video making feeling when I've got 7 on the board and there's only 6. Brilliant. 5, I'm not going to edit it because it's funny. 5 is critical. You need to practice the elements of final table play. So you need to practice short-handed play. I cannot tell you, because it is a huge number, how many players I've seen get to the last 4 in a tournament, or especially heads up in a tournament, and clearly have no real knowledge or experience of how to play short-handed and heads up no limit hold'em. It happens all the time, and it happens with some players who are pretty solid in the rest of the tournament. Having studied it and watched it a lot, I'm absolutely convinced that the biggest edge tournament professionals have against other players is that they are better at the end of the tournament. Because remember, all of the money isn't in 6th or 15th in a tournament, it's in 1st and 2nd, right? It's tilted. So you need, when you get to a final table, to be doing everything you can to finish 1st and 2nd. And you can't do that without being good at short-handed play. 6-handed poker is very different to 9-handed poker. 3-handed poker is very different to 6-handed poker. You should be playing very different ranges. You should be playing much more aggressively. You should be playing more hands. So these are very different dynamics. And obviously when you then add in the payouts and the tournament pressure, it becomes different again. So work on this away from the table. A lot of tournament players never study short-handed and heads-up play, and it's a huge mistake. Don't fall into that trap. Get yourself some experience. Play some short-handed cash. Play some short-handed sit and goes. Play some heads-up poker. Go and watch training videos about heads-up poker and short-handed poker. Understand, what the main dynamics are. You don't need to become a heads-up professional, but you do need to get some experience, because we're about winning tournaments. We're not going to get to final tables very often. Nobody does. So when you get there, you want to be focused on winning the whole thing, and you can't do that without short-handed ability. So if you take one thing from this video, it's that I can't count to 6, and also that you should always be working on your short-handed game if you want to do well at tournaments. And so our last point, which is so impactful that it's 6 and 7, you're welcome, America, is that deals are often going to be good for you. Deals. Tick. I'm not going to tell you whether to make a deal at the end of a tournament or not. That's up to you. It's up to how you feel in the tournament. It's up to your situation financially and so on. I think the poker world has moved on from when deals first started happening, when there were a lot of players that used to say, I never make a deal. I always play it out. I always trust my edge. A lot of players used to say that. Now I think most players, more players recognise that you don't get to the end of a tournament very often. When you do, there's a lot of variance, right? It's not luck, because the best player will still win if we do it over and over again, but you're not getting there that often. So there's a lot of variance. And making a deal is a good way of smoothing that variance and guaranteeing more money for yourself. So a lot of times, the right advice to you is going to be to make a deal. You can very quickly and easily get the right ICM numbers, which is what's fair. It's not fair to chop according to the chip count, because there is a premium on actually being in the tournament. Shorter stacks are worth slightly more than their chip count. And unless it's a winner-takes-all tournament, which gets a bit more confusing. But in a traditional tournament structure, you want to be doing an ICM split to understand what a fair payout is. A lot of times nowadays, the tournament director will get that for you. So you don't even have to do it yourself. But that's the general advice. And then it just comes down to negotiating and deal making. If you've got people that are perhaps conservative or afraid, or they're in over their head, or they satellited in, then it's probably fair that if you've got more experience, you get more of the money, because they're just not going to make as good a decisions. It's not really exploitation. It's actually a fair reflection of your chances in the tournament. Similarly, if you get down to 3 players and one of them happens to be Timex, or another similar elite player, and you are an average player in the field, well, he should probably be getting a bit more in that deal, right? But it does come down to negotiation and situation. But in general, if you get down to the last 3 or 4, in most tournament structures, you should be looking to make a deal. If you don't, you don't, but that is the general advice. All right, I hope this helps you. I really hope this helps you, because getting to a final table is one of, if not the most fun things you can do in poker. But you don't just want to get there, you want to take it down. So remember the key lesson from this video: work on your shorthanded and heads up play, because we're about winning the whole thing. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to take your poker to the next level, then click the link underneath the video. You'll come over to our site, you can sign up by email and get your hands on a free training resource that will get you improvement in your game tonight. Just click that link under the video to get it. Now, if you've enjoyed this, then please do let us know by liking the video and leave a comment. If you've got a question for us, we'd love to hear from you. And if you're enjoying these videos, let's make this relationship official. You can go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you'll be the very first to know when we publish a new video or new lesson designed to help your game. All right, thanks again for watching, and remember to run good, because that's the hard part.